So we've got to talk about jobs because, as I keep telling you, going into 2026, I think unemployment's going to go up. And essentially, jobs are going to be the most important thing to our economy. Check this out. It says, is the economy losing jobs? The Fed's rate cut hints at bigger worries. And Jerome Powell dropped a bombshell. We talked about in the prior video, but basically, he said the government is overstating perhaps 60,000 jobs a month. And when you do the math as it shakes down, that means we're losing jobs like 20,000 a month, because I think the government was saying, hey, we're gaining like 40,000 a month. And Powell's like, no, you're overcounting by 60,000 a month. And therefore it's negative 20,000 a month. We'll see this because I think it's going to get worse as Trump's economy keeps sinking. And their promised solution is to basically, hey, we're all going to have data centers and AI. Seriously. And then you get something like this. Fermi's first tenant for massive Trump-named power project backs out of funding deal. That's Rick Perry. That's Donald Trump. We're going to have this great data center thing, and we're all going to have jobs, I guess, even though AI is going to replace you. And when you read the description of this stuff, it's absolutely bonkers. So I'll read it. Shares of Fermi Inc. crumbled Friday after the company, with links to Donald Trump, right, was surprised by some bad news from what was supposed to be the first tenant of its massive data center power project in Texas, okay? For a company, Fermi, that plans to be a real estate investment trust, which generates income from its tenants, not having any tenants would be a big problem. That's literally what it says. They had a little bit of fun with this one, but that's Rick Perry. I think he ran for president before. It's like a Republican dude from Texas. And basically, they can't keep the promises that we're all going to make money from data centers or whatever. The thing that's so crazy about this stuff is that that's where our investment is. If it works, you all lose your job. If it doesn't work, we all waste a bunch of money on stuff that was trying to make you lose your job in the first place. So there's that. Also coming out today, this is just breaking a few minutes ago. I'll just say this. We have a lot of people in our community that work for the VA. I want to hear from you if you've heard about this stuff, but this just came out here in the Washington Post. VA plans to abruptly eliminate tens of thousands of healthcare jobs. Okay. I guess we're talking about 35,000 jobs. They're essentially canceling the hiring. They supposedly have had openings for these jobs for a long time, and now they're not going to even look for people anymore. Let me read the details of this because the description of this story represents much of the working conditions in the USA, and you'll see what I'm saying. So let's go through it. The Department of Veteran Affairs plans to abruptly eliminate as many as 35,000 healthcare positions this month, mostly unfilled jobs, including doctors, nurses, and support staff. This is coming from a memo, and some people may have already seen it. It also says here that the decision, I guess, from Douglas Collins, that's the Secretary of the VA, he originally wanted to do like 15% cuts. So they've already been looking to cut people, basically. And the whole plan, this is with Elon Musk, Donald Trump, they want to replace as many people as they can with AI. It's stupid, but that's what they want to do. And I guess now he's going for 10% cuts. So the agency hopes that the cuts will reduce the healthcare workforce to as little as 372,000 employees, a 10% reduction from last year, okay? And then evidently VA staff members are, speaking out about this because of course they would. I mean, this is their coworkers, this is themselves even, and they know the system. And as it boils down to is people feel like the VA has been understaffed for years and are essentially being overworked. That's basically what it boils down to. And I think a lot of people are going to be feeling very similar things because what it ends up being is that, okay, this is your organization. These are the people that you have. When you fire people, the work just gets passed on to another staff person, right? So you end up taking on more work. And I remember we looked at something before with the VA in particular, and people in the comments wrote this also. But basically, like the way the teams are built, say if you're supervising someone, maybe in the past you supervised, maybe 5 people, maybe 10 people, something like that. But then now it could be like you're supervising, say, 20 people, 30 people. Like it's just the amount of stress and the amount of people you have to manage is too much. I'll just be frank with that. Let me read some of the description of stuff. So, for example, it says, this is the official one here. VA spokesperson Pete Kasper-Roquis confirmed the planned cuts for unfilled positions. He said the healthcare system is eliminating about 26,400 of its open jobs, which he described as, quote, mostly COVID-era roles that are no longer necessary. That's according to him. The vast majority of these positions have not been filled for more than a year, underscoring how they are no longer needed, okay? This move will have no effect on VA operations or the way the VA department delivers care to veterans, or as we are simply eliminating open and unfilled positions that are no longer needed. That's according to him. But when you talk to other people, they're going to say other things. So, for example, someone else. The VA has been chronically understaffed for years, and employees are obviously going to be facing the brunt of any further job cuts or reorganization that results in employees having to do more work with less. And, I'll go with the workers' point of view on this one, but I'll let you guys decide. And I want to hear from people who are at the VA. Let's read some more. Sharda for Narino, a VA nurse in Colorado and local head of the nurses union, said her facility continues to lack the necessary staff to keep up with demand. And she urged lawmakers to restore collective bargaining so nurses could advocate for safer working conditions. The measure is unlikely to pass Republican-held Senate. As I tell you guys all the time on this channel, I just want to talk like a regular person. I'm on the side of workers. That's how I feel about this stuff. I just don't think it's a crazy thing to say. And I think more people do need to pay attention to this stuff. People who, I'll just be frank, vote for these Republicans who hate workers and hate unions, stuff like that. I always feel like they're voting against their interests. It's ludicrous, but the Trump people always get in fool you to say, oh, it's all the dark people's problem or whatever, and that all these black and brown people are, taking your jobs. They always say stuff like that. But essentially, the Republicans, again, they want to try to get away with paying you as little as possible and overworking you. That's what it boils down to. Someone then says, or she says then, we're going to continue to do more with less. We're going to continue to be overworked. And you hear that a lot in American companies, especially ones that are hit by layoffs. And also I want to give you just a top level view of what's going on. Howard Marks talked about this, and this is actually pretty interesting. It says stock bubble, AI job losses, wealth destruction is on Howard Marks's radar. And he's predicting sort of where everything's going. Let me read what he says, because I've actually heard him say this stuff before. I had a chance to meet Howard Marks years ago. It was like 10 years ago already. And he was predicting these kind of things. And it's interesting to see it actually finally play out. So this is what he says. There is no doubt that investors are applying exuberance with regard to AI. So you're talking about market bubble, okay? The question is whether it's irrational, okay? Marx pointed to the belief that there are two types of financial bubbles: inflection bubbles, which are bubbles that inflate due to a transformative technology, and mean reverting bubbles, which are bubbles that form for reasons that don't advance society. Both types result in wealth destruction in the end, okay? The key is to not be one of the investors whose wealth is destroyed in the process of bringing on progress. And, I'll let you guys decide which one is which. It could be a combination of both. But my particular feeling on this stuff is that this whole AI thing is just, it's completely unsustainable, because the idea is that we're going to replace workers. And if we're a consumer-based economy, nothing going to make sense anymore, because if we don't have jobs, we can't buy anything. Now, actually, Marx does address that point, and you'll probably kind of guess where it's going, but I'll just want to read what he says and we'll go through it. So he's talking about AI a little bit. AI could drastically reduce the number of available jobs, and enable companies to implement mass layoffs, okay? Marx said he believed entry-level and low-skill workers are among most at risk, and predicted the scale of job losses reaching into the millions. And we've heard this before from other estimates, how much it could be. I'll just say it could be a lot. I'm not going to speculate how many, but, if we're talking entry-level jobs, lower skill jobs, I'll just say this. I wouldn't be shocked if sometime in the future, like maybe, an Amazon warehouse or a loading docks, these kind of things. There's certainly some jobs that may do it. I know even delivery, theoretically, I'm talking about physical jobs. You could have drones flying around delivering packages someday, theoretically. And then also you're going to have accounting jobs and stuff like that. Now, it doesn't mean that AI is going to replace everyone all the time, but I think a lot of companies are going to try to do that as much as possible. Just automation plus AI, essentially. Here he says, I find it hard to imagine a world in which AI works shoulder to shoulder with all the people who are employed today. How can employment not decline? Okay, that's what he's talking about. Then it says here in 2023, Goldman Sachs estimated that AI could affect around 300 million full-time jobs around the world. We'll see. Now, this is the part where it gets interesting. According to Howard Marks, he says, if the government were to respond to mass unemployment, right? So keep saying, watch the unemployment numbers, by rolling out universal basic income checks, which, well, we'll see if this happens, that could potentially hurt taxpayers and open the door to U.S. falling deeper into a debt spiral. So just let that play out. Just think about that. So we all lose our jobs. The economy doesn't work because we don't have any money to buy anything. And said, okay, fine. We give you a bunch of unemployment checks or basic universal income or whatever. But how are we going to pay for said thing? We don't really have any base of taxpayers. No one's buying anything. I guess we just borrow a bunch of money from other countries or whatever. Sell bonds abroad or try. And so then obviously then the debt crisis becomes a real problem. So that's why he mentions it. Quote, where will the money come from for those checks? Mark said. Quote, this puts a further burden on the declining segment of the population that is working and implies even greater deficits ahead. In this new world, will governments be able to fund ever-increasing deficits? Basically, the math doesn't work out. You're not bringing in enough tax revenue and too much money is going out. You have a deficit, right? And then you're going to see the national debt also go up. I think for a lot of these, we'll talk about the Trump people or whatever, they're just thinking about today. I just need to, grift as much scam stuff as I can. That's why I showed you guys the first thing where the Rick Perry and Donald Trump are smiling, talking about, hey guys, we got this great data center, investment real estate thing. We're all going to make money. And this is like, even the financial publications are okay. So if your whole strategy is to make money on having tenants giving you income, that's bad if you don't have any tenants, right? It doesn't work out. And so then the idea is, okay, I guess we'll print up checks for everyone. That's what Trump always promises, but how are we going to pay for that? None of this stuff makes sense. That's why it's good to just have real conversation about this stuff. Marx then says, growing wealth inequality could stoke social and political chaos in the USA. And I keep telling you that all the time. It's a K-shaped economy. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And this is something that you'll see. And this is also deeply concerning in the USA as divisions keep getting more and more, greater, I guess you could say. People are more siloed, more separated. You go off to whatever, social media world that you're in. You may not look at what another social media world says. And oftentimes, this is just the reality. It's hyper-partisan world out there. It's just crazy. Even if I agree with certain channels, I always say the same thing. So I just want to mention it. Even if they're, say left-leaning or whatever, I'm just like, man, they're saying whacked out stuff. They're yelling all the time. They're using fake AI images. It's crazy, right? And it just keeps dividing people further and further. And I wish people would just talk real conversations about this stuff. This is what we're doing right now. This is what Marx said and says, finally, quote, I'm concerned that a small number of highly educated multi-billionaires living on the coast will be viewed as having created technology that puts millions out of work. This promises even more social and political division than we have now, making the world ripe for populist demagoguery. Sorry. But actually, it's interesting because he was talking about that before when Trump first got in 2016. So he doesn't necessarily just come out and flat out say, I hate Donald Trump. Donald Trump's a moron kind of stuff. But he really talks about the economic environment, creating a sort of system that allows for people like Donald Trump to come. The same way with, say, in 1930s Germany, with the economy was terrible. They had to pay for World War I, the reparation stuff, and then it was the massive inflation, and then you just get this crazy whacked out person. You guys know the mustache person, and comes to power. Your system becomes completely unstable. And you get far more extremist if your economy doesn't work for everyone. So I wanted to give you guys an update to what's going on. I know it's not the happiest news to talk about these things, but you do want to understand it. It doesn't mean that everything's going to, go to crap guaranteed 100%. But if you don't understand what's going on and, people constantly pick leaders that don't have your back, long story short, and want to build these data center projects that end up not making any money whatsoever, and then we're losing money and we're borrowing money to do it. I could totally see the future that Howard Marks is talking about, but the numbers don't add up, right? We're all going to give you money, but where are we going to get said money? That's basically what it boils down to. To have a sustainable thing, we got to come up with a way to have a system that not just a few people, win. You get a system where like everyone has an equal chance to just be okay. I guess is the best way to put it. So that's my thoughts on this. I want to hear yours. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you on the next video.